Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Villado. And Nick, what would you be willing to sacrifice to get the following? Giants
do it.
win week 2
Ooh.
and 4 offensive touchdowns.
4 offensive
Yeah,
touchdowns.
something like a 31-24 win type of thing.
I don't know. I'm not a big sacrificial type of person, Dan, but I would enjoy that thoroughly. I would give some money towards that cause. Absolutely. So I'll sacrifice a good chunk of change to see that.
I will sacrifice, Nick, my precious magnets back
Oh,
there. Yeah. I'll
magnets.
sacrifice those magnets back. You know what? I'll sacrifice a few rounds of golf. And I'll sacrifice the ability to talk about golf. The Giants win this weekend, Nick, and score 4 touchdowns. I will not for the next 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks of no golf. I probably won't be able to play much golf, but if I do have a good round or one round I want to talk about or something I want to talk about, I will not mention it on this show. If the Giants can score 4 offensive touchdowns and win the game. But let's see what happens. Nick, we're getting ready for Giants-Cowboys week 2, and it's just been a very interesting week as a Giants fan and as a content creator, somebody who covers the Giants, because it's only been one game so far in the 2025 season, Nick, but it feels like there's been 5. It feels like the Giants are honestly 0-5. If you taken a peek across Giants Twitter this week, you've seen some pretty popular content creators, and I don't blame them, calling for the next GM, discussing new candidates who could be the general manager of the New York Giants, new candidates who can be the head coach and why that needs to happen. And we're already on the head coach and general manager discussion and the new quarterback discussion after one game. And
Yeah.
look, I understand it, but I don't blame them at the same time. Let me try to phrase this better. The Giants haven't given us any reason to give them the benefit of the doubt. So despite the fact that they haven't dropped to 0-4 or 0-5 yet, to be honest, which is the only time where it's reasonable to even consider a GM or head coach change. It's not reasonable at 0-1. At the same time, I understand why fans feel like this is heading in that direction.
100%. I mean, a lot of these same fans wanted Dable and Shane gone after the 2024 season. And I mean, we were advocating for that as well, not because we have anything against them, but we didn't think they did that great of a job. And then they were able to have a solid offseason. And what did we say all offseason? It's like, yeah, dude, we have positive momentum. This is great. Let's see it on the field. That's what Brian Burns would say. That's what Dexter Lawrence would say. A lot of the players would say, well, now we need to translate this to the field. We said it on this podcast. A lot of those content creators said it. And then what happened on the football field? The Giants got punched in the mouth once again for the 3rd consecutive week 1. How else are we going to process this? Of course, there's some vitriol. They want some people to lose their jobs. And that's not something that we want to advocate for, but we just want a winnable product. And Brian Dable and his coaching staff, they haven't provided that winnable product since 2022. They want something respectable, something competitive, especially when you see what happens when all these other players leave the Giants. Now, I don't think those players leaving the Giants are doing well because they left the Giants per se. But when that's coupled with the losing, it's going to compound on top of each other. We're going to look at the people who are running this show, and we're going to be like, all right, you guys are not figuring this out. Let's turn the page. Let's move on. Let's give it some time. I'm not optimistic about week 2, if I'm going to be frank, but you know that John Mara and Steve Tisch, they're not going to get rid of these guys this early in the season. They're going to give it some time. And I mean, if they go out there and put up another clunker, another stinker, though, these voices are going to get rightfully louder.
They'll get louder. And, as you said, rightfully so. If that happens, I'm a little bit more hopeful than you are that it's going to be a better game. I'm not going to say right now, we'll talk at the end about score predictions, but I'm not going to say that. I just don't think it's going to look as bad. I hope not. But we'll get into some of why that may be the case as we go through this episode. I really think, unfortunately, Washington's a really bad matchup for them, I guess. Like last year, they were able to compete, but now it just felt like they were just totally outmatched in that last game. Washington has made some improvements. We'll see if Dallas is the same. But yeah, it's interesting, Nick, because this team has been like Dable has been here for so long. Shane has been here for so long. And it's almost like, I think in some ways, some fans at least feel like they're going through a similar process to what they were with Jones, where it was just like he was kept coming back and back and back, and it's a new year, but they don't feel the hope, and then it feels like it's done. And Dable and Shane have also gotten an insane amount of opportunities. It usually doesn't go like this in this sport, right? Like a quarterback and a coach don't usually get this amount of time to fail. in a lot of ways. And I know whatever, I'm not trying to get into the Jones thing. Like, if you don't think he failed, that's fine. But the team with him definitely failed. Obviously, they lost a million games with him every single year. And Dable the same way. Dable, the team with Dable, even if you don't want to blame him, has failed over and over and over again, with the exception of 2022. So it really just sucks to me that we've gotten to this point where we've just lost all the momentum that we had. And agreed, look, we didn't deserve to have that momentum. It was unfair of us to bring that momentum, maybe some fans might suggest, Nick, and that's okay. It's going to happen every time. I'm going to feel positive about this team until they prove to me with a game that I shouldn't feel that way, because that's how it goes, man. That's football. If you're not going to feel hope and optimism at any point, then there's, in my opinion, no point to be a fan, A, and B, I'm just never going to want to cover this team like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into this thinking that like I said at the top of the show right after, like I'm just not sure that this coaching staff is a good coach. You prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it to me. Prove it to me. It's been long enough at this point. 2022 was a long time ago. It's been 2 full seasons of beyond mediocrity and a smell that just does not leave, bro. Dumpster type of poop smell, right? As Russell Wilson would say, and I could bring that up in a second, a diary of poop type of smell, right? So I need to see it on the football field. And guess what? You have the opportunity to deliver that on Sunday.
In Dallas, yeah. And you're right. Look, it's time to step up and prove it. It's funny, Nick. There it is. It's the Russell. It still doesn't sound like Russ every time I hear that clip. But it's interesting this week. And I don't know if, back in 2022, I wasn't doing Beyond the Box Score. So I didn't really watch as much film on the other teams as I do now. But this week we've been, it's a new show with CBS, so we're doing 3 a week. There's a lot of studying that goes into it, 2 a week for me in the season. So I've actually gotten a chance to watch a lot of the offenses this week. Jets, Raiders among them. There's coaching. That's what a coaching edge looks like when you watch those offenses. And you watched Indy, and Indy, I think you would probably tell people, had a coaching edge in that game.
Absolutely.
On offense, we're just talking about offensively for those 3. And I think back and I'm like, in 2022, I remember doing this podcast with you and doing the all 22 reviews on offense. And we had a coaching edge, at least in the beginning of the season. What happened to this too? What happened here?
I think a lot of teams figured out what the Giants were doing, and there was just no adjustment off of it.
Yeah.
There was just no adjustment off of it. And I think the Giants took advantage of just getting hot at the right points in the games. Jones stepping up, Saquon stepping up in certain areas. Like with the Chicago Bears game, for instance, like they just couldn't contain. They sold out to stop Barkley and forgot that Daniel Jones was athletic, right? Like the Ravens game was an upset where Lamar Jackson did not play as well and the defense helped them. And I'm not trying to take anything away, but it was a well-coached team at that time. But once the NFL gets film on you, they start throwing curveballs to you. And you can hit the fastball, but can you hit the curveball? Right. And it's just, this regime has not proven that they can actually hit this curveball yet. And you have to if you're going to make it in the major leagues.
Yeah, it's fair, especially because, Steichen's a great example of that. Steichen, they had figured out his offense to an extent over the last, few games with the Colts. And now he's refound something else. He brought Tyler Warren in, they've brought in new talent, and they've done different things on the offense.
And to Jones's credit, I think Jones does a better job running that offense than Anthony Richardson did.
Yeah.
You keep it on script. And Miami's also
Miami's
Miami.
Disaster. Yeah.
They are a disaster. And I did watch that game, and there were some nice throws, but it wasn't like I saw a new quarterback. We saw that version of Daniel Jones here in certain spots, right? I think he can do that, but he's not ripping these far hash throws with this beautiful touch over the top. He's not throwing with incredible anticipation, although I'll say that comeback to A.D. Mitchell was an anticipatory pass to the boundary side that was of high regard, something that I regard highly. I thought that was a nice throw, but it was still the same quarterback. And it's not like Jones didn't, it was like I think people are misremembering Daniel Jones. Like, we don't think he's the worst quarterback. We've said several times, like, this is a guy who would be a good backup. But I think once the bullets start flying and once you really need him to step up in certain situations against good defenses, he's a little bit limited. And also, if you watch the Miami defense, they were doing the same thing that Jack Del Rio was doing against Daniel Jones back in
he had a good game against
2022.
Yeah. Sorry, Washington.
But like when going back, man, Soup Man. But the field side where they were like neglecting the field side. And there was like 2 times where the protection was good enough to where Jones went through his progressions and then he could work back to that field side. And there was no defender outside the numbers. And he would just find someone in the flat who was just hanging out there, who the defense was just ignoring because they were like, this quarterback, we don't need it. He doesn't really challenge it because he doesn't do that all that often. but he made them pay when he had some time to get through it and everything. But it's still, the limitations are there to where they don't trust him to make those throws through a progression. So that's one of the problems, right? And again, good on the guy for performing the way he did, but he's still the same quarterback that we saw, who's just in a slightly better infrastructure, who still doesn't throw with anticipation at a consistent rate, nor does he have the it's not like his arm talent just developed over the offseason, right? Yeah, I think he's just in a slightly better infrastructure with a better offensive line as well. And again,
I wouldn't even refer to it as a slightly better infrastructure. I'd refer to it as a much better infrastructure for across the board. And I think that, I looked at some of the numbers. I didn't watch the tape on that game. I don't personally have any interest in watching any more of his tape, and good for him. I hope he continues and dominates the Broncos this week, whatever. But I did see some of the numbers, and the most glaring number, Nick, was he was the least pressured quarterback by far in the NFL last week. Miami didn't get an ounce of pressure. And, I will say this, for all the crap I gave Jones, and I respect all them people who are coming at me now and taking their victory laps for Jones after this week. It's fine. You can enjoy that. And if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. And you feel this strong urge to get me, or whatever it may be. I get it. You think I was too harsh on him. It's obvious to anyone who watches football, and it's been obvious to me my entire life. And if you disagree with this and don't think that I think this, then you're just dead wrong. That if you have a situation like he had in week 1, Nick, where he was by far the least pressured quarterback, a quarterback's going to have success, dude. If you're in the NFL and you've made it that far, Nick, unless you're Jake Fromm or something like that, if you have that situation that he had in week 1, where I saw the numbers Doug Analytics posted, I mean, it was Jones, 32, bottom of the pressure. Like he had no pressure in week 1. He can probably deliver, and so could probably everyone else who's playing at that level. But good on him, because you said that AD Mitchell throw. I did see that one. That was phenomenal anticipation throw.
The Pierce throw was nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the play where there were a couple things that he did that he just didn't do a lot with the Giants too. He made some checks at the line of scrimmage one play. And
I feel like he made checks at the line of scrimmage with the Giants. It's just people, like, I see some people like it's not like he was inept. Like, he had I feel like Daniel Jones is always, and this wasn't supposed to be a Daniel Jones conversation, but Daniel Jones always had a firm comprehension of the offense. I just think once those bullets were flying, it's the pre to post snap phase for Daniel.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, like I've seen him make checks on the line of scrimmage a bunch of times when he was with the Giants. Like, I see people posting about that.
Just didn't seem to find solutions when he made those checks. But my point was, like, with the Colts, he found this, and we know that because we didn't have any success in the passing game. So when he made those checks, it seemed like, oh, well, there's the check, but where's the solution after the snap? But there was a solution. I saw him make a check with the solution, and he found Tyler Warren. And I was like, all right, that's awesome. And so, yeah, good for him. Good for the Colts. That infrastructure. People who made the argument, Nick, that, coaching and infrastructure makes a big difference on why Jones was so bad. So far, it's a win for them, right? After week 1, they won. Colts, amazing offensive line. That O-line was, again, best in the NFL from pass protection standpoint in week 1, again, against the Dolphins. But and then they took advantage of it. So,
with fall grilling right around the corner and Labor Day just behind us, I've been thinking about all those end of summer cookouts. There's nothing like the smell of a grill firing up with all your friends surrounding you. Personally, I fired up Omaha Steaks last weekend, and it was a total home run. From handcrafted steaks to juicy burgers, deli-style franks, meaty chicken wings, and more, Omaha Steaks really delivers the world's best steak experience. During their current sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, and our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER at checkout. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917. Family owned for over 100 years, and every bite is backed by a 100% guarantee. Whether it's Saturday or Sunday, or just a weeknight dinner, it's the perfect way to celebrate with unbeatable flavor and convenience. Get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Labor Day sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code BANTER at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER. Go to omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide during their current sale and use promo code BANTER to check out for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details. Big thanks to our advertiser, Omaha Steaks. I've been wearing underwear every day for years, mostly, but I've never really felt like I found the one, Either it rides up, punches, or just feels off. So when I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was honestly pretty excited. I tried their cotton 5-inch boxer briefs, and wow, they're a game changer. They hit perfectly at the thigh and actually stay there. No bagging, no wedgies by 5 o'clock, just pure comfort. And for the gym, the Stretch 5-inch boxer briefs are amazing. They move with you as you work out. They keep your shape, your form, and they do not ride up. If you want to feel comfortable, confident, and actually enjoy your underwear, shop Skims Men at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, Big Blue Banter, in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched a big holiday sale. So go to skims.com and check them out.
On our side, we don't have that, right? We don't have the best infrastructure right now. Our offensive line looked like shit in week 1, and our coaching didn't do the things that Shane Steichen did to create space and find options down the field post snap.
And I have to imagine Matt Eberflus is going to have a very similar approach that Dan Quinn employed against the Giants, man. Like, look, the Giants run a lot of duo, right? We've talked a lot about that over the last 2 seasons. What did we see from the first snap of the game from Washington? Just stunt at the line of scrimmage. What I mean by stunt, it's not a game, it's not a twist. It's just they're going to exchange gaps pre to post snap. We saw Javon Kinlaw aligned as a 4-eye. He goes into the A gap, the opposite, and the duo blocks that are trying to combine and force that double team. They don't exactly know how to tee off from the original position to the post snap position of that defender, who all of them just had a jump on the Giants snap count as well. So you saw immediate. How many times did you see immediate penetration? Yeah. It was because a lot of these guys were moving at the snap. Because one thing we know about Matt Eberflus's defense, it's a lot of zone. They run some trap type of coverages. They try to get you trapped from a zone perspective. And up front, they don't blitz that much. They're going to send 4 often. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys defense, and just because we're starting on the offensive line, I figured we'll talk a little bit about that defense.
Yep.
Yeah, you have Kenny Clark, who just got there in the Micah Parsons trade. Kenny Clark is an above-average defensive tackle in the National Football League who is strong at the point of attack. John Michael Schmidt's going to have his hands full with that. And then you have Osa Odigizua, who's one of the quicker 3 techniques to penetrate. So those guys are going to be moving at the snap. And then you have the Dante Fowlers and the Sam Williams and the Marshawn Nealons, who had a really good game in week 1 as well. It's going to be a difficult task for this Giants protection, who just went up against a Washington front who is also physical. Like, I don't think Washington's front is clearly better than this Dallas front, right? So that's something that we're going to have to pay attention to see if these guys are getting immediate penetration again, because it doesn't seem like the Giants pre to post know what they're doing once that stunt takes place, once that gap is exchanged. It's like pre-snap, you understand where you're going with your protection, but post-snap, he's not there. What do we do? And it just it seems like there's a miscommunication, and the line is not playing as well as they should be as a complete unit, because that's what the offensive line is. It's a unit. You need to be able to handle those types of things. You need to be able to adapt on the fly. You need to have that reactive quickness. We did not see that at all from this Giants offensive line against Washington.
You're right, and that's a great observation, and this is a great place to start. The Giants offensive line against the Cowboys defensive line in this matchup. And you said it on the podcast earlier this week, and I think you made a good point with it just based on what I've seen, Nick. That was the worst performance by this offensive line, by this specific unit on the offensive line that we've seen. And this is the same unit as last year. I have to believe they'll play better this week. I have to believe that's going to be their worst game of the season. I have to, Nick, because nothing else makes sense to me, at least. Like, it just doesn't make sense that they could get beat that badly over and over. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but Warren Sharp had a stat on it. Giants led the NFL last week in runs that went for 0 yards or worse. 47% of their runs, almost half of their run plays, dude, went for 0 yards or worse. You know how bad that is? Like, it's just a consistent, like you said. The only way that could happen is, 1, they're jumping our snap counts. It's literally the only way that could happen. And 2, they're penetrating immediately and early. And I'm sure Dallas will see the film on that and try to do similar things. And I'm sure the Giants will see the film on that and try to mix up their snap count and try to do something different to avoid that. They're not stupid, right? Like, we talk about this coaching staff with not a lot of reverence right now, but we still know they're capable of putting together a game plan for an opponent. Like, they wouldn't have gotten this far either without that. So that's going to be a big factor in this game. Can this offensive line, the unit that they have out there, including Hudson, most likely, I guess we're probably not, who knows, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get Andrew Thomas for this game again.
Limited, or no, he was DNP.
But that was like apparently the plan or whatever, but it just doesn't feel like he's playing in this game
It doesn't. And dude, we need to be a little bit creative with this rushing attack. It can't just be straightforward duos. So you need to keep that defense honest. Like even with Philadelphia's offensive line, I think on their first or second drive of the game, they ran that halfback pitch, that misdirection pitch where Jalen Hurts opened up to the right, pitched it to Saquon
nice
Barkley,
play.
and then they pulled two offensive linemen. It was a power pin pull concept. We need to see some things like that. That's not just like the regular crack toss, reduce set pin pull, which I want to see as well, and some counter, but it can't be as vanilla as we saw against Washington. And maybe it won't be because Washington stopped it right from the get-go, but it was a pretty neutral game script all game, and was still like, what was the adjustment? They started running a little bit more to the outside to limited success, if you even want to call it that. I think they had a 6-yard run like that. You had the backside cut by Singletary that went for 8, but overall, it's just, I think you could still rely on duo, but if that's getting stopped up, you need to throw a curveball at these guys.
It's just crazy that we run duo because we had some success with it last year, but we run duo with combinations like GVR and JMS and Runyon and JMS. Like these aren't duo blockers. Like this is just, and it's funny. I said a lot of people have played the game this week, Nick, of like, well, you know what? If you took Russ's 11.5 million against the cap and you did this and this and this with Holland, we could have had Will Fries. And it's like, maybe by looking at it like that, you're right. But we don't know if Will Fries was offered the same contract that he got from the Vikings by the Giants and just said, no, I want to go play with Kevin O'Connell and a team that won 12 games and next to Brian O'Neill with Darius, like, right? Like he could have easily just been like, I don't want to come play with the Giants in your shit situation. So like, we don't know. And ultimately, like when free agency started, Nick, I made the case strongly that if he hits the market, the Giants should overpay for Trey Smith. And that's the type of situation they're in. But he didn't hit the market. And that's just the reality of the situation that they were in. They did what they did. And I ultimately think that's what happened with Shane. I think he had a certain amount of cap space he wanted to spend. The O-line didn't work out for him. And he said, I'll get Holland because, that's just like what I feel to be a value at this point, or somebody that I think we can spend money on and improve our team with. But what we're left with is just a really interesting situation on the front, and they have to start playing better this game, because if not, I think it's time we start seeing some changes, because I don't see why not, right? Like if Hudson struggles again, people are talking all about like, well, Jackson Dart played this game. I'm more interested in, and I think it's more likely, will Marcus Bowe get some snaps? If Hudson struggles, why the F not? At least like he's not going to regress. If Bowe sucks out there and they put him out there early, move him back to the bench and he'll keep developing, and it's fine. I don't think it's going to stunt his growth whatsoever, to be quite frank, if he loses some snaps early in his career but gets an opportunity. Same thing, like I don't know where he's at, and he's on short-term IR, so it's not the case yet for Ezeudu. But once Ezeudu gets healthy, it's the same thing there. Like I'd like to see him potentially in a game at guard and see what he can do, because this is just not a unit right now, Nick, where I'm focusing on them and I'm like, they're definitely going to get better. I'm not sure they're going to get better, this current group.
No, neither am I. What have they proven over the last 2 years that they would? I mean, I should, without Andrew Thomas. Now,
yeah,
I think the Chris Hubbards of the world might, like, and you've called this a while ago, that's a neutral move, and that's being positive towards James Hudson III, Now, I would like to think maybe that's not the case, but James Hudson III all offseason was so clingy with his hands, getting called a lot in practice with these holding penalties, the false starts, gave up 6 pressures. Could it have been worse? Sure, but it wasn't good at all, right?
Good.
And to watch the Giants offensive line seemingly not be prepared for the pre to post snap movement from Washington, not get overwhelmed by the blitz. It wasn't necessarily that. It was picking up just simple, some of them weren't simple. They were a little bit more complex, but picking up twists, something that you expect an offensive line unit to do, right? They couldn't do that. And it's not like the Giants have the running threat of, like the Giants didn't defensively run a lot of twists at all. And that's what something Shane Bowen does. He runs twists against Jane Daniels, because you can't really do that against Jane Daniels, because once you exchange gaps, you're surrendering those gaps temporarily, and he's going to take advantage of that with his legs. Giants don't have that with Russell Wilson, that threat with Russell Wilson. Right. So you might see the same approach from Matt Eberflus, who's going to send 4 a lot, which is going to be a lot of twists up front, a lot of games. And the Giants got to pick that stuff up. They got to be one unit. They got to act as one. It's difficult to do that without Andrew Thomas. It's difficult to do that with James Hudson III in there. But, I mean, it can't be like week 1 again, dude. That was just inexcusable.
That's why that's the number one, in my mind, reason we lost that game, because of what you just said. The offensive line was unprepared for the game. They were slow off the snap, which is like a crazy how big of a factor it was, but it was. And it's like, seems like the most simple stuff in football. Like really, you're losing a game because an offensive line is just simply slow off the snap, and they're getting like beat on the snap counts? Yeah, they were. They were getting beat, and that's why they lost so much of those games up front. Why, as Warren Sharp pointed out, they had 47% of their runs go for 0 or fewer yards. It's an insane number. And I think ultimately part of it is because you talked about the Cowboys, Nick. I watched a little bit of the Cowboys offense for this game and a little bit of and I watched the full game when it was live, but I mean on tape. The Cowboys offensive line, despite its injuries, plays such a physical brand. It's also just like pure, like old school, like, I don't want to call it dumb man, but like, layman terms, football knowledge. Like physicality. Like, does your offensive line play with a mean streak and a physicality, which is basically why I feel like it's like the 90% of the reason they thought to sign James Hudson, which sucks because he's not good and I don't think he's physical at all or good in the run game. By the way, it's like that was mainly why I said the Hubbard thing. I thought Hubbard was okay in the run game. I don't know what Hudson offers this team at all personally, but
it could be worse than Hudson, though. That's like the crazy thing. I don't want to knock on wood while I say that.
Like his doo-doo when he was at left tackle.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of my point, though, right? Like Hudson's still going to have his issues.
Sure, but is Bo going to be worse than that?
I don't. Yeah, that's. I mean,
maybe he might be, which is why they're not playing him because he might be, but like he might not be.
From a communication standpoint, that's where it's like hard for me to opine on. I don't know where he's at with that, especially since he's played right and he's played left and he's kind of kicked around a little bit and he's a rookie. So, but he seems like I've talked with him, he seems like he's, eye on the prize. Like he has a good head on his shoulders and that wouldn't be as much of an issue for him, but that's really hard for me to say sitting here.
A few years ago when the Giants had an awful week 1 performance by their offensive line, he did make the decision, Brian Dable, to put Marcus McKethan in. So he's not like, I won't make any changes on this unit. He's not. He already said he's not doing it for this week. But again, I won't be surprised if we see some snaps from Marcus Bo this week if Hudson sucks out there again. Because at some point you just have to be like, what is the, like, I get it. It could be worse. It was worse with Zudu. It really was at left tackle. But it's not that much better with Hudson over there. It's really not.
No, it's not great. I'll say this, man, just from like the injury front.
Yeah.
Look, it looks like the Andrew Thomas, again, he didn't practice. We'll have to wait and see. Malik Neighbors was limited.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's anybody else other than Micah who was there was a bunch of DMPs on Wednesday, and I want to pull that up right now. But for the Dallas Cowboys, the only one, and it doesn't look like he's going to play. Yeah, Deron Bland, who's one of their better secondary players. And Trevon Diggs, I think he played 37 snaps in week 1. He's probably going to play a little bit more. He's coming back off of the knee injury. He's not the player he was. Exactly. The Giants, if the offensive line can protect, that's a big if. I think they'll have I think this is a worse secondary than what we just faced against Washington. Even though Washington doesn't have a lot of star-studded names, they got Marcus Lattimore and Trey Amos, and
we love
Sandra still. And then I think the kid that we loved coming out of school, Quan Martin.
Oh, Quan Martin, from Illinois.
He's developed into a good football player as well. But overall, like Kaiir Elam gets a lot of snaps for them. And Kaiir Elam was a cast-off from the Buffalo Bills. And Joe Shane knows very well, but he can be exploited. Yes. And I don't know who in this secondary is going to be able to hang with Malik Neighbors. And I can see them bracketing him often again. And if he brackets, maybe you could take advantage, like depending on how you bracket, where you align Malik Neighbors, that could take players away from the run fit, maybe give the Giants a run advantage. Can the offensive line take advantage of that? Because again, the coverage and the run fits, they're always married together. That's how you got to think of this kind of stuff. So and Brian Dable and the coaching staffs, they know this. If you want to try to remove Malik Neighbors, you're going to line him outside to make that run fit a little bit softer to certain edges, depending on how they cornerback aligns from a leverage perspective. But I think the Giants can have an edge there if they can protect. And that's the big if.
That's the big if, because I think a lot of people went into the season like, oh, Dallas traded Micah Parsons. They're not going to be able to create any pressure. They did create pressure against the Eagles. They did. After that rain delay or whatever, lightning delay, they came back out and they created pressure, and it made it really difficult for Jalen Hurts.
Corner blitzes.
Corner blitzes. They did different things. I don't think it's going to be a situation for the Giants where they're just not getting pressured. So the offensive line is going to have a good game. But if it does, man, I'm a little bit more hopeful than you, because I think if the offensive line can play a little bit more like they played even without Andrew Thomas last year, right? Like you said it best, like this line didn't have Thomas for a lot of last season, and they were still a lot better in that second half of last year. They weren't good. Let's make it clear. They were still the 27th, but they were still better than last week. Last week was like an unplayable 32nd. You could even put it like 45th, like best offense. Like it was unplayably bad film. Something went wrong. They got the snap counts jumped. Everything was a mess with the stuns. They were protecting with 5 and losing to 4. Like if they just play a normal game, or a good game for what they're capable of, this 5, things can happen, man. You said it, the injuries in the secondary for Dallas. Dallas played 100% zone in week 1 against Philly. I think part of that, as people have pointed out, was game plan specific against Jalen Hurts, which is fine, which I get. But I think generally speaking, Eberflus is mostly a zone guy. So we're going to see mostly zone coverage in this game. And again, if we can protect a little bit, I think we can take advantage of some of these players in the secondary. There were moments as I watched back through the tape where we were closer. That Wan'Dale throw, it was closer than it looked to being a big play. A few of the other throws from Russ, like I'm not as buried, I think, on the offense producing in this game. The other side of the ball we'll get to. That one I'm a little more nervous about, but I'm not as buried on the offense. But it has to be what you said. It can't be like the offensive line has to play a good game. They can't just be like, we're not going to be physical. So I don't think we're going to get the run game, but they just have to protect.
And look, they have like a solid edge room, but like no star-studded guys, right? Like Donovan Ezaraku, he had one really nice rep against Jordan Mailata, but overall Jordan Mailata like just dominated.
Ate his lunch.
Ate his lunch. Dante
he
Fowler
could probably beat James Hudson.
Yeah, on certain time. And we're going to see that Sam Williams is a powerful rusher with heavy hands. Marshawn Nealand, again, he's a versatile rusher. And then you have Osa, who we know inside with Dante Fowler. Like that's a solid James. I didn't even know they had James Houston. Remember James Houston when he had his breakout year with the Detroit Lions? Yes. And then I haven't heard of him since. Now he's on Dallas. He's in there. He's in their rotation as well.
Like 13 sacks or something that year, didn't he?
Yeah, it was incredible, man. And then the second level of their like I didn't even realize I forgot that Kenneth Murray Jr. was there.
They got Kenneth Murray Jr.
They signed Kenneth Murray Jr. and Jack Sanborn. Because remember, DeMar.
My boy Sanborn.
He's a physical and smart player.
We could use a Jack Sanborn on this defense. Over Darius Muasau.
Yes. That's
why don't we sign Jack Sanborn when he hits the market?
I mean, that was like some of the only like big moves I think that they made defensively, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because
it cost them anything. They were flyer moves.
They were flyer moves because DeMarvion Overshone is still recovering from his knee.
We don't take flyers at linebacker ever. We did with Simmons, I guess, but like he's not really a linebacker. He's just like a miscast.
I mean, you could argue like Chris Board, but those are more special teams guys.
Yeah. I would be interested in seeing some Chris Board this week potentially. I'm not a Darius Muasau guy. We'll see what happens there, but I thought he looked.
I want to give him one more week of like practice, like
a full week to prepare.
Team. Yeah. Because to me, he was like shooting gaps that I don't know if he should have been shooting. Like watching because I rewatched the film and he was shooting gaps that I wasn't sure he was supposed to be shooting because like there was no one else that like would come in and fill his responsibility and Washington's rushing attack was just way too prepared for that, right? So I think that the run defense would have been better if Micah McFadden was. That is another thing if we wanted to like be glass half full, which I'm not right now. Micah McFadden left in the second drive, at the end of the second drive, and then like you put Darius Muasau in this second-year player who Dable has praised for his preparation and all this kind of stuff, but to me, he did look a little overwhelmed from where am I supposed to be, especially when, and this happened often, they were switching gaps, right? Because they were pulling so many players. And once they pull the players, you got to adjust on the fly and adjust your responsibility. I just felt like he was out of place a few times.
Yeah, you're right. Other things offensively, I thought, just looking back on some of the tape, Neighbors, despite playing through an injury, looked awesome. And he talked this week about how he has like resting bitch face, he called it. Like he just, he needs to, and he said it, he's like, he needs to try to smile even though they're getting killed. Like I did a full 180 on this from the take I had like earlier on this show, like I guess on the reaction show. I'm now pro team Neighbors on this. Like I don't need him to be. No, I am. Like I don't need him to be like pretending to be happy. Like he should be mad when they fucking suck, and he should be mad, excuse my language, when they're running stupid plays in the red zone that don't feature him. Because all preseason, Nick, and all training camp, we watched these like timing routes in the red zone with him and Russ Wilson. They didn't throw one of those in the game, despite, like you said, having 6 red zone opportunities. So, of course, he's going to be pissed, as he should be. Like, he's the player who can make a play for them in the red zone to help them win a football game. And he said it when he came out. Remember that interview you had with Dable at the Combine? He's like, I don't do well with losing. Good. I don't care. We need guys who don't do well with losing, dude.
He had a couple plays designed. Well, he had the one play designed to him, and then he had one target, which wasn't. I don't think it was designed to him.
That throw at the end.
That was tough. That was a tough catch. That was a little behind. And then the other play that was designed.
I just meant like the back shoulder timing route type thing.
I feel you. Yeah. I feel you. Sometimes you just got to isolate and take that.
That's what I mean. Isolate him and just throw it to him. Let him make the play, because we can't make the play with our offensive line or our run game or Russ, I guess, at this point. So someone has to make the play for them.
Yeah, I mean, like ideally, you know, like I don't really like care. Like I think you're 100% right. Like he deserves to be upset. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want him like sulking too much because you know the media
Yes.
is going to eat it up. But you can't be like, hey buddies, what's going on? Huh? You're
Yeah.
getting your
Yeah.
ass kicked. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So, and I do want to see that emotion and people to be held accountable for a crappy product. And I know like Malik Neighbors' main goal is to win. This
I
isn't a
feel that too.
player.
I feel
This
strongly
isn't
about that. Yes.
this isn't a player who's like, "Oh, we won and I didn't get the ball." You know what I mean? So,
Right.
like, I mean, how can you hate on
He's
somebody like
pissed because
that?
they weren't winning and he didn't get, and he
Yes.
thinks he can help them win by getting the ball. That's a totally different thing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and until I see
So
something to refute that, that's how I approach,
same.
Malik Neighbors if he's looking a little, if he's looking a little upset on the sidelines.
With that said, as far as going back and watching the tape, I thought he looked awesome in this
Mm.
game. The one route he ran, that route where he broke inside and then went outside. That's the best route I think any receiver ran. And I think wide receiver score, one of them put that tape breakdown up. That's probably the most separation anyone created this. And then the high point when Russ put it out there on the right boundary, like he just made plays.
Strong
And
hands,
so
bro.
great hands, great route runner, speed in the open field. If we can get him in some space, which we just, the thing is like, it's crazy, dude. It's like Bowers last year. Bowers last year was last in the NFL in yards after the catch. And then this year so far in week 1, he was more first because obviously they have like a real offense with Chip Kelly and a real quarterback. And it just shows like, I feel like when I watch the Giants, dude, Neighbors has no space post catch to work with. It sucks. Like everyone is just kind of like, you remember it's like how it used to be with Barkley. It's like everyone is just focused on him every single play on the defensive side of the ball. So really we need to find a way on offense, at least to get Slayton involved this week.
Yes.
I think and Theo Johnson has to make plays. And if Theo Johnson is dropping passes, put Daniel Bellinger in, man. Daniel Bellinger had a route in the red zone where he made a catch. I think I saw your tweet on it. Guy has a 90% plus catch rate. So since getting the NFL, Theo's going to drop passes. Get Bellinger in the game.
I agree. Now, I don't know if the Giants would. And I'll say this about Theo because we've been really hard on Theo Johnson on this podcast. And I think it's, the correct way to view this because he's kind of been a sloppy player so far through his career. He's still like a dominant, like almost, I don't want to say dominant blocker. He's a good blocker, man. He's a big dude. He's a big dude.
It's a frame thing. Yep. You can't. Bellinger doesn't have that frame.
No, he doesn't. And Bellinger's a big dude. I've been next to Bellinger. I'm like, damn,
and a good blocker.
Yeah, and he's a very Bellinger's a great blocker on the run too. And when you want to use that fullback, you don't need to waste a
in movement. Bellinger's a better blocker than Theo. Just on that line of scrimmage at the end, it's tough to replicate someone who's 6'5", 270.
Like Theo was holding up against some of like the big edge rushers of Washington, and he's not even losing slow. Like he's being annoying. Like he's kind of pissing them off a little bit. And I was like, damn, Theo, like good job on that one. But like, can you learn to catch the football?
Probably why he gets as many snaps as he gets. And I get that. Like Dable's always liked players like that. He has Chris Manhertz on this roster.
Yeah, no, Manhertz is another one like that. Now with Theo though, I'll say this too. Like he's just not, and I said this already, but like he's just not the athlete I think that like his testing would suggest.
Sure.
How many times on tape? And again, he was running some longer routes, so I want to be fair here. How many times on tape was the football in the hands of another receiver and Theo Johnson's coming out of his break? It's like Russell Wilson has already gotten rid of the football and Wandale has it. And you see Theo turning around looking at Russ like, is the ball coming my way? And it's like, bro, you're not even out of your break yet, dude.
Yeah.
Some of those routes are a little longer, to be fair.
I think in that standpoint, you're 100% right. And it's a great observation. I think he's not as good an athlete as a pure route runner, someone get in and out of their breaks, get to the top of the stem. But I do think he's as advertised when the ball's in his hand in the open space.
When he's running he doesn't have to make a lot of cuts. If he has a straight, like if the screen.
Like the play we saw in the preseason. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So you need to find a way to get him the ball. Like, let's run a screen to him. For God's sake, what's going on with the screens? We ran successful screens all preseason. We didn't have any in the first game.
No, we had one.
The Wandale one? No, I don't care about that. I'm talking about to the tight end or the running back.
I got you. Yeah. It's they weren't really bringing a lot of pressure, Washington.
That's the problem. You can't run a screen if they're not bringing pressure. And is Dallas going to bring any pressure?
Probably not.
Need to?
I don't know if they need to. That's the thing. It's because
they pick up an effing stunt, then maybe they will. It's just crazy, man. Like what happened? It's unbelievable. They look like a JV team out there in week 1. We just have to hope that doesn't happen again, man.
I agree.
Yeah, but offensively, the last thing I guess we could touch on is the run game. I think so much of it is tied to what we already discussed on the offensive line. They're going to have to do a better job because Scadaboo or Tracy can't do this on their own. They need the help a run game is only as good as its blocking, as my opinion. So the question I have is, because I don't know about that, the question I have is, can potentially Cam Scadaboo get a bigger role this week?
That's where I'm at. And that's not to say Tyrone Tracy Jr. is,
No.
we don't, what did Tyrone Tracy Jr. play? Like 79% of the snaps or something like that? It was a lot of snaps. And
super high.
Yeah, I would like to see a little bit more Cam Scadaboo. Cam Scadaboo provided some of the only offensive sparks, even though it didn't really yield in a lot of yardage. But the pass protection, I was like, whoa, look at the and then the play on the sideline where he caught the ball and ran through one of their defenders. I think the Giants offense can use any type of spark at all. So yes, I do support that. I don't think he should start or anything, but maybe give him the third drive, give him the fifth drive, something like that.
Right. A full drive.
Depending on how the game flow is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he can add a new element to this offense, especially in if the game is trending as it was last week, where you can't get a lot going. He can maybe get something going for you. And he did that last week in the few opportunities he got, obviously. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else on the offense side of the ball before we talk a little defense?
No, I think we can go to the defense. Malik Hooker's another player just to watch out for. I think he might have been limited, but like he's just I like those safeties, man, because you got the physical presence of Donovan Wilson, and then you have the range of the cover one high center field Malik Hooker that are a little dangerous. So you got to watch out for players like Malik's getting a little long in the tooth, man. I think Hooker was he was one of my first guys I studied like my first year being like involved in like the draft
really?
when I was in college. Yeah. So like he's got to be getting up there.
Yeah, but still plays good football.
He does. Ohio State, baby.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I ultimately think offensively we're going to need to put up a lot of points to win this game. So let's get to that. Why on defense? So first of all, last week, this was an interesting stat I saw. Cliff Kingsbury ran counter 37% of the time. No team ran it more than 10% besides Washington.
Yeah.
Is that a product of teams trying to get away from Dexter Lawrence?
I think it's a problem for that. I think it's also to make Abdul Carter the read defender. Now they ran counter type of plays. Well, one wasn't a counter, one was a pin pull. That was when Luke McCaffrey pinned when they pinned Abdul Carter, and they ran counter at Abdul Carter once, and he did a phenomenal job dipping his outside shoulder and then just presenting his numbers. And it was one of the only negative runs it seemed like that it was either Bill or Alston had. So I think it's a combination of both those things. You don't want to run at Dexter Lawrence. The Giants have never really been a team that you run and hit like the A gap. And I think the Giants defense knows that, because whenever Dex was off the field, they presented 5-man fronts. They put like Elijah Garcia out there with DJ Davidson and Nacho, and they were just gapping themselves out. Whereas Dex, you can just put Dex as a 1 or a 3 or a 4 sometimes, and he can handle multiple gaps. And they're just always trying to get multiple people on him. We need that other defensive tackle to step up, Roy Robertson Harris and Nacho, and those linebackers also to be quick to fill whenever it is a run. But playing a team like Washington's so difficult for the Giants. It's so difficult for really anybody because they have the mesh point. And when you go into the mesh point, it could be a throw. It could be a handoff.
Right.
Jane Daniels can keep it. And what does that signal? It's like a play action type of pass. And some of them were just play actions and not RPOs. And that just brought all the linebackers back. And then what happened with the Giants playing the safeties at the depth that they play at? You have the intermediate parts of the field wide open. And Jane Daniels were just picking through. That's that one play that Cordell Flott surrendered that we went over on tape when Bobby Okereke stepped way too close to the line of scrimmage because he thought it was a run. So he wanted to execute his run fit. He saw how Cliff Kingsbury pulled the backside guard in the protection. Everyone was pass blocking, but that almost kind of gives you a tell, like if it's at your run key, like, oh, he's pulling over, it might be a run. Let me step to my gap. Now there's all that space behind me. Cordell Flott's an outside leverage, easy 10-yard gain, 12-yard gain for the Washington offense. So the threat of Jane Daniels is not here anymore. Dak Prescott doesn't move like that. So that should alleviate some of that pressure on the New York Giants defense. But overall, man, it's Dak Prescott's anticipatory passing that I think is just going to be such a problem for this Giants secondary. Outside, really everywhere, outside the numbers, boundary field side, doesn't really matter. And then intermediate. The Giants are going to try to keep a cap on everything. They're probably going to be in too high often. This could be a lot of Javonte Williams getting the football because, again, like he didn't look great and amazing against Philadelphia, but he did what he had to do, and the offensive line was blocking up really well. Yeah. But then that's going to set up the play action, and then that's going to bring those linebackers in. And if the Giants are playing at that depth to remove George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, that intermediate part of the field, again, is going to be an issue.
Yeah, you're right. And that was what you said before. Like, I don't think that Schottenheimer is big on the run game, but I don't think we're going to see like as diverse a run game as we saw against Washington for some of the reasons you broke down. But the one thing that I took away from watching Cowboys offense when I did watch a little bit of all 22 is just they're a really physical unit up front. Their offensive, it's funny, like they had a major injury on the offensive line this preseason. It doesn't matter. They've done so much to continue investing in the offensive line. Even this year, they didn't have to, and they took Tyler Booker because they just don't give an F. They just want to keep getting this physical group in there. And they do have so many like nasty players like a Booker or Tyler Smith, whoever it may be on that offensive line, making a difference and playing a physical brand of football that ultimately is going to be difficult for the Giants, I think, regardless of who they run at and where they run the football. It's just the way that they play on the offensive line is going to be tough. Javonte or whoever it may be back there, maybe a little bit of Miles Sanders too. Doesn't really matter. Hopefully, it starts up front with the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope we see some Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders is he coughed that football. He might have cost the Dallas Cowboys the game there.
He did.
I wonder if Blue is going to be dressed in this game. That's something
I saw earlier this week. Jerry Jones said he's likely to be a coach's decision inactive, in addition to Mozzie Smith, who's also likely to be a coach's decision inactive, which is just crazy. They spent a first round pick on Mozzie.
Yeah, he didn't play in week 1 either. I mean, they brought in Jay.
That was coach's decision.
Yeah, Toia, I think his name is. Yeah, Mozzie Smith not working out. I mean, JMS struggled with Mozzie Smith too historically. So, but Kenny Clark, I mean, if you're struggling with Mozzie Smith, Kenny Clark, I can introduce you to him, and it's like, wow, damn. The whole like Kenny Clark has fell off thing. I don't know if that's 100%. I think he had a step back year last year, but he's still 29 years old, and he's still damn.
I heard he looked pretty good in week 1. I didn't see their defensive tape, but as far as the offense goes for the Cowboys versus the Giants defense, I think the Giants will benefit from some of the things you mentioned, like the fact that Dak Prescott, despite being a better processor, which I don't even know if we can say anymore at this point, Jaden's so good at processing, but despite being a better processor than Jaden probably still, he isn't as mobile, and hopefully that will make a difference. Because I mentioned it last show, but there were multiple times I thought the Giants won high side and just Jaden is Jaden them. And there were other times where Jaden just Jaden them in the pocket. And that's not going to happen with Dak.
And CeeDee Lamb dropped 3 balls and might have cost the Dallas Cowboys the game in week 1. I'm a little afraid that they're just going to pepper that dude. I wonder if Paulson, do you follow him? Now, Paulson Adebo played a lot on the defensive left side. So it would be the offensive right side, but he followed Terry McLaurin, especially in the red zone. But with CD had like a 27% snap or a slot snap rate. So are you going to bring Paulson into the slot? I don't know. And that's going to put Drew, and Drew can hold his own, but CeeDee Lamb is an insane could be the best wide. Like we talk a lot about Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. At least I do, and they're phenomenal. But I need to start bringing CeeDee's name into that because he's an insane receiver, dude. Yeah. And I could see him getting fed early and often. And I also just don't know, like, what do you do about George Pickens? Because you're gonna put Flott out there. Are you going to put Banks out there? The Giants had a massive tell when it came to Flott and Banks. I tweeted about this.
Yeah, Banks played man and Flott.
It was anytime the Giants, it was a third down situation when the Shane Bowen, 3rd and short, likes to just run cover 1. He had a spy on Jaden Daniels, and it was Tay Banks in there. The only plays where Tay Banks ran zone, they were plays where the Giants couldn't substitute. It was during the 2-minute drill in the final first half. And it's like, okay, that's what we're doing, but that is a tell. Everyone's going to kind of know that.
That's pretty stupid.
I mean, it is what it is, I guess, but
pretty stupid. It's pretty just stupid in my mind. A lot of coaches do this stuff, but I find it pretty dumb. I don't really even like when Manhurts comes on the field and we run the ball. I just don't love these ideas of these tell-based offenses. It's very Jason Garrett-esque.
Yeah, no, I get that. Now the thing is, I guess it's just hey, they already know we're going to be in cover 1. We're just going to win with up.
That's what it is. It's exactly what the coaches are thinking, right?
Yeah, I would just like to see. Maybe I'd like to see more Banks. Cordell Flott, he didn't play great. He was out of position on a few plays. It was pretty rough. One of them was a cover 1 play. But George Pickens, I think, will eat that guy's lunch.
Yeah, one-on-one, he will eat his lunch. I think we'll see a lot of 2-eye, so it'll help in that regard, hopefully, just to have a little bit of safety up over the top, because George Pickens one-on-one is not a good matchup for anyone on the Giants, even Paulson Adebo. Neither is CeeDee Lamb. That's goes without saying. I also worry about Jake Ferguson in this game, who didn't have a big game in the first game, but with Muasau out there and whatever's going on at linebacker, look, I didn't watch every team, but I watched a lot of teams for Beyond the Box Score this week on tape, Nick. I think we had one of the slowest linebacker combinations in the NFL out there last year between last game between Okereke and Muasau. And that's going to hurt them in the passing game. That's going to hurt them from, just simple things like dropping into zone and getting your hand in up to, to potentially into a passing lane, which we never seem to do. We haven't seemed to do that at any point since we went to this Bowen zone-based defense. So it's definitely a concern of mine, our linebacker play against a player like Jake Ferguson.
Same here. He's a smart player, man. He just understands those soft spots. And again, the Giants are just stretched so much in the zone game, man. Like Darius Moose had a couple plays in coverage where you're just like, dude, where are you going, man?
Right.
Like you're covering the guy that Bobby Okereke is matched on right now. Like
right.
There's another dude over, and then Paulson Adebo surrenders a catch. It's like, yeah, but Moose is supposed to be in that. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that needs to definitely be ironed out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but it'll be another game, Nick, where if we win this game, it's going to be because our offense is better than people expected it to be, which I think is possible, and our defensive line, our pass rush takes over. There were some snaps with Carter. I saw you put some up today, lined up over the A gap that I hope to see in this game. Just let him eat. And it's not going to be a game like, I know Dable said it, dude, like, like we have a plan for our rotation. That's why you saw all these guys sitting out in the first game. Throw that plan out. Like it's 0-1. It's a must-win game. Carter's got to be on the field for a lot more than just like 50% of the snaps this game. He just has to be. And so do all those four players need to be on the field. What'd you say?
That's how they turn this around is
yeah,
getting your best talent out there and coming up with a game plan to slow this.
I know he wants to keep them fresh. There's no option anymore. We can't go 0-2 into KC, especially because KC could lose this week, and then they're in a must-win situation against the Giants in week 3. And if it's 0-3, it's over again. Like it's just the season. It's most likely over again at 0-3. What is it? Like 8% of teams that have started 0-3 have made the playoffs. So it is what it is. But hopefully the Giants play all their guys this week against the Cowboys. Hopefully the pass rush eats. We get turnovers on Dak. We've had some success with turnovers on Dak. It is crazy, though, Nick. Like, I saw this circulating on Twitter yesterday. The last time the Giants beat Dak Prescott, and it was like the intro, like, here's the Giants offense. It was Eli Manning, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, and he looks so young in that. They have like the video. Sterling Shepard looks so freaking young.
Yeah, it was his rookie year as well.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr., Will Tye at tight end. Okay. We had Eric Flowers and Bobby Hart as our 2 tackles.
Yeah.
Who was that shit guard we had that we played for a while that was so bad at right guard? Blanking on. We had Weston Richburg at center. Left guard. The left guard and right guard. The right guard so bad. I hated him on the Giants. Who was our right guard?
In 2016. We haven't beaten him since his rookie year. We beat him
literally
twice.
2016. The graphics look old. Everything look old. It's been 10 years since we beat Dak Prescott. Like, what is wrong with this franchise, dude?
And we have one win against them since, and it was just when he was out, and it was Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
It was the 2020 game where the Giants played themselves into the playoffs, but Nate Sudfeld. It was the Nate Sudfeld, Washington, Philadelphia
6-9 or 7-10, whatever bullshit was.
Yep.
Yeah.
With Joe Judge. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Isn't that nuts, man? Isn't that crazy? That's how much Dak Prescott owns the New York Giants. And it sucks to say, but it's the reality of the situation. So go out there and do something.
We can shock the world here. I don't know, man. We'll see.
There's only 5.5 dog, which I feel like is pretty favorable to the Giants.
Started at 3.5, moved 2 points to the Cowboys direction.
Okay. They did.
Yeah. Which typically means the money's coming in on the Cowboys. That doesn't mean necessarily the sharp money is. It just means the public money is coming in on the Cowboys, which is typically the public is wrong. So we have that working for us. All right, Nick, let's get to some predictions for this game. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this football game 28 to, I'm going to say 10.
You think it's going to be another 10, like no offense game for us?
I don't know. But if you're going to I'm going to proceed until they prove me wrong, until they prove otherwise. So that's what I'm doing right here.
Damn.
But at least we score a touchdown, right, guys?
So disappointing, especially because that touchdown could be a garbage time touchdown. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to dive deep into your prediction, but all right. I actually have a little more hope than you do, despite how bad it looked in week 1. Because of what you said, I really don't think this offensive line can play as bad as they did in week 1. I think that was the the stone worst outcome at like bottom of the outlier outcome.
And the Jaden Daniels effect on for our defense as
right.
well.
And the run game. So I think we're going to get things going on offensive side of the ball. I'm even debating picking the Giants to win this game. I'm not going to.
I love it, dude.
But I actually think this will be a competitive game. I said that about week 1. I was wrong. I won't keep doing this if we suck again. This will be it. But I think we're going to get some touchdowns from Russ. I think we're going to get some touchdowns in the passing game. I don't find this. The Dallas defense looked good in the second half against the Eagles, but I think a lot of that, as I mentioned on our show, was because they had the hour-long delay with the Lightning to look at the tape. They're not going to have that. Like we're going to see what happened. We're going to okay, I'm going to say 30-24 Dallas.
Ooh, I like it, man.
24 points.
I don't
though.
love it.
No, but at least we scored 24.
Yeah.
And
if that depending on how that happens, like we might go into Sunday night being like, oh, we competed. The season's not over, but starting 0-2 is just
no. We have to win this game. We have to win this game. And I do think we're going to compete and have a chance to win this game. So we'll see what happens. Thank you to everybody tuning in. Please stick with us. I can't believe I have to say this in week 2, but it sucks. But we're going to try it. If we win this game, we'll be super hyped. So maybe we can win. But thank you for those who have tuned into the offensive and defensive film review podcast this week. Thank you to those who have hit the like button, comment, and supported the show throughout. We'll be back with you on Sunday night after the game. Some of those, by the way, we'll go live with those. Some of those will also be like in that window before the Sunday night game. Sometimes Nick and I have time to do that. So it'll either be in that window of like 7:15 or in the window we did last week, which is like after the Sunday night game at 11:30. So thank you for tuning into those lives. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Line up and kiss my ass.